and that is that China bans export of certain drones. And let's preface this story by saying this is not clickbait, but also it's very uncertain and up in the air exactly how this is going to play out. But we'll start with this statement from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce.
Yes, this is a translated government page. Chinese government, Chinese Commerce, Ministry of Commerce has said that essentially, let's see. So I guess we should just say, they've issued 2 announcements on the export control of UAVs. So they're going to restrict some UAV special engines, important payloads, radio communication equipment, and civilian anti-UAVs. Systems and other export controls are implemented, and some consumer-grade drones are subject to a 2-year temporary export control.
So this one doesn't bother me very much because it's like it seems pretty clear that this is tailored towards like unusual things with explicit sort of military application. And I think, like, I've seen other articles talking about this where they mention things like laser rangefinders, thermal cameras, and so on. The first part of this, and when I first heard about this ban, I read that part and thought, oh, this is much ado about nothing, because hobby drones aren't really affected by that first sort of section.
So what I'm suggesting is that first section is what applies to us. It just doesn't describe it very well. So the reason I would say that is because if you look at it, it says, so we said there's 2 announcements in here. One is that first bit about the special engines, payloads, radio equipment, right? And then the second part is, at the same time, all other civilian drones that are not included in the control above are prohibited from being exported for military purposes.
Okay, so that doesn't affect us because we don't export them for military purposes. So we're good so far.
Correct.
So far we're good.
That's why I think that first part we got to see, like, so what do they mean by UAV special engines, radio communication equipment? I think it seems vague. And if you go down to the next paragraph there, we see a description of what they're attempting to do here.
Right. This is where it gets really troublesome.
Yeah, so they say, in recent years, the rapid development of UAV technology and continuous expansion of application scenarios, the risk of some high specification and high performance civilian UAVs being converted to military use continues to rise. As a major producer and exporter of drones, China has decided to moderately expand export controls on drones on the basis of full assessment and demonstration without targeting country or region. And so essentially they're saying, like, hey, there's a bunch of drones and drone parts out here, civilian drones that are being used for military purposes. And
we don't like that.
Work to export, right? Correct.
That's the part that bothers me the most, because, like, you could dig through the technicalities of like what is banned, but at the end of the day, the government is going to interpret an export restriction in ways that are consistent with its ultimate end goals. So in some ways, understanding what the end goal is more important than the technicalities of the actual regulation. And if the goal is, we have noticed that consumer drones are being used for military purposes because there's all this footage coming out of Ukraine, right? There's lots of footage. It's on the civilian, it's on Telegram channels, it's on YouTube. And there's all these stories about basically people buying bind and fly drones, strapping weapons to them and flying them into targets. And the Chinese government has decided they don't like this for whatever reason, and they want to put a stop to it. And if I was somebody like, for example, an iFlight, and I only pick iFlight because they're just one of the biggest bind and fly manufacturers, and I've seen footage coming, just on the public internet of iFlight drones. Right, I did that video where I responded to like stacks and stacks of iFlight drones. If I was an iFlight, that paragraph would make me very, very concerned. The rapid development of UAV technology, the risk of some high-performance civilian UAVs being converted to military use. That's exactly what this seems like they're talking about.
Right. And so they go on to say a little bit in here that, it's export control, it's not export prohibition, and there'll be approved companies and approved exports. So I think the thing that we're going to see is essentially, we don't really know. First of all, we don't really know because this is the only document we have from China. There's no law document. There's no rule regulation that we can read through to see exactly what they're restricting. There's no specifics from anything else that's been released. All the articles about it just summarize this same document. However, we do have a message we got from Madstech, right?
Yeah. So Madstech, and we're going to show the message he sent, but first we have to, like, I thought, oh goodness, I should go contact manufacturers and see what they have to say about this. And I started doing that, and then I talked to Madstech, and he's been doing it. So credit to him. We're going to share this information from him with his permission, but he should get full credit for doing the actual research. Here's what he had to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Madstech let us know, and he talked a little bit about this on his stream, but this is kind of a good summary. And again, we really appreciate him sending this to us. But he said T-Motor emailed their vendors on Monday saying they won't be able to ship parts after the 1st due to new export
of September.
restrictions.
Sorry to interrupt you. And the 1st of September is when this goes into effect.
Correct. And Madstech has seen the email, so obviously that's a real email. He also says he spoke to manufacturers. Nobody will go on record, and there's a confusing mix of responses, which sort of, I would say, echoes what we saw on the back end and what I've seen talking to people as well. That it kind of back and forth about what people are saying, and nobody seems super serious, but nobody seems like, oh, there's no problem. It's sort of in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then he said, I've had to confirm that retailers have been advised by sales reps to stock up as much as possible before the 1st. Supply will be redirected. And then one manufacturer suggests they should be able to supply directly to consumers with confirmation of intended use of limited quantities. Yeah, not all companies are being treated the same, which is this thing we talked about approval. T-Motor makes a lot of parts, so it's possible they're being targeted differently. And yeah, just some more information there from Madstech about stuff. He sort of echoes at the end one of the things I would like to echo, which is just that, boy, it's 2 days away. So if somehow all these companies don't know they suddenly aren't allowed to ship, that would be pretty crazy. So to me, right, I feel like this would have been addressed by some of these companies ahead of time. Maybe that's untrue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe all of a sudden they'll all announce on the 1st that, hey, we can't send anything now. This is it, right? But well, maybe a little while that none of these companies have put out a public statement to anyone.
At least to their resellers. Like if you're a company, like companies live and die on revenue streams. So there are companies, because you have to make payroll every month. You have to pay rent on your building every month. They have fixed costs that they have to do every month. And so an interruption in your revenue stream, this is not like deep insights. This is business 101, but an interruption in your revenue stream can kill your company fast as, you know, a reduction in your revenue stream. So if they anticipated that they were going to have export controls that would restrict their revenue, they would go to their resellers and they would say, hey guys, you need to get your fucking orders in ASAP. We need to ship as much shit as we can before September 1 so that we can get this money and we can weather this whatever happens. We haven't seen any of that as far as I can tell. I mean, Madstech says he's heard some of it, but it doesn't seem like it's widespread.
Yeah. Yeah, really all we can do at this point, based on our information, is speculate like we have, and you know, and sort of wait it out. I mean, we have 3 days to find out, you know, what's going to happen on September 1st. We'll know pretty quickly. And it sounds like, you know, I heard from one of the guys on the FPV Freedom Coalition, Rob, who works with the police departments and stuff. They're being told by DJI that they'll still be able to get equipment, and DJI won't be hindered by this, which seems crazy because DJI is the largest drone manufacturer, and they seem like a large target for this kind of rule.
Sure.
But it may be because they're selling to, you know, that's a government resource in the US. Maybe there's some kind of deal there about who they're supplying to and where and why. You know, all these things are still up in the air. So yeah. Definitely just want to let you know what we know.
Yeah, keep your eyes. We have to. This is the kind of thing where, like, sometimes, and I'm thinking about the U.S. perspective, because obviously I don't have deep insights into the workings of the Chinese government, but sometimes there's a rule or a regulation passed, and everybody kind of wink, wink knows who it's targeted at, and it's targeted at a specific thing, company, a specific whatever genre. No, that's not the right word. So it could be that this will be selectively enforced and hobby drones will be fine, but boy, that second paragraph sure makes it seem like hobby drones are square in the bullseye, and we just won't know until we find out.